Okay, sorry for the little bit of a delay. I was trying to prep a few things so that I don't have to search for it in front of you later when we start the exercise. But anyway, that's part of the challenge, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So today in the lecture part, we're really going to talk a lot about what you're doing for assignment 102, which is that combination or bending reality a little bit in Photoshop. You already have a little bit of what you need, but today you'll get a lot more practice in terms of how masking works and how do you really isolate certain things and remove certain things from a particular scene. So I'm going to start with a bunch of examples, some of which are professionals doing their stuff, some of which are student examples, and I'll delineate so you can see who's doing what. But hopefully this gets your brain thinking about what you're going to do, what you're going to create as part of your assignment 102. In exercise 107 that we're going to do today, we're going to isolate objects. We're going to get people out of their surroundings, which is a skill that you really need to have and develop. So we'll talk a lot about how do you get rid of things in Photoshop. And we'll go through that in kind of a live demo setting after we get through these initial slides. So the thing about Photoshop is when you start to bend reality, gotta love when it's dead here. We'll see. I'm betting my thing is dead. So you can start to blend reality such that it gets borderline a little on the creepy side. But one of the things that's consistent about all the images that I'm going to show you is the best ones have consistent lighting. So when you take the picture of these two faces, and obviously this is studio lighting, it's set up with a flash, with deep shadows and that sort of thing. But when you set this up, the same shot is made using the same lighting. So you don't just randomly find two images and put them together. This is probably the most simple one to make. In this example here, you've got the young person looking into the mirror, seeing the old person back. It's a very simple mask when you stop and think about it. So you're taking two images when you're going to combine these together. The first image is obviously with the person, the younger person who's here. Inside the mirror would be his reflection. Then you swap out, you take picture number 2, and the old person stands here, and you take the same picture, same lighting, same camera setup, same tripod, etc. So two pictures, and then it's just a matter of masking the mirror such that the old person's picture appears in the mirror versus the new person, or the younger person. Does that make sense? So it's just a simple mask. It's a simple swap out, and it's an easy way of being successful. Sometimes they are a little bizarre, but sometimes I like to throw these ones at you too, because why not, right? It's just creepy. These ones, when they isolate the background completely and take it out of context, I find less successful, but the lighting conditions on the hand match the lighting conditions on the pot. So if you are consistent, it ends up working out just fine. I think this one is particularly well done, even though it has an isolated background. And that is because of the careful observation of how the shoes turn into the feet. And thinking about where the wrinkles naturally occur in both the leather of the shoes versus the knuckles of the feet, so to speak. Making sure those pieces start to line up is part of how these two blend together. It helps that the tone of the two pictures, or the skin tone of the leather versus the skin, also matches up really nicely. So it's a really good example of how these kinds of things can meld together. This one, I've seen people try to do this one and replicate it. It's really hard unless you can get yourself in the same exact position. So the leaf on the ground shot is easy. You can walk around, you can find that leaf. But then you have to take the picture of your face on the ground nearby to get the same lighting conditions, or at least be able to replicate it. So it's really important that those two things match up if you're going to try to set these up. So if you're out in the Safeway parking lot and you take the picture of the leaf, right, you're going to have to block cars, and you're going to have to lay down and take another picture of you from the same angle. Okay? Sometimes just varying depth works out nicely. This one is the same picture shifted over. One is blurred out in the background with the cutout, and the other is held forward. There's a third picture that is holding the little puzzle peeps. So it's kind of a combination of three different pieces, but it's again using all the same masking techniques that we've done already in class, and you'll do again today. Another combination, I've seen it done where these drawings go into the photos, so you have a drawing that leads into a photo. You'll see a few student examples of those later on. Sometimes it's just a matter of what do you see. You know, this is like I see the lion in the clouds or whatever. Maybe you see the eyeballs and the ends of the carrots sitting at the grocery store or whatever. So you have to be thinking about this stuff over the next week about what can you do, what can you substitute into reality that bends this sort of thing. I love this one. I think it's great. That would be really creepy if it were real. But again, it's well done. The lighting's a bit over-processed, but I think it's nicely done. The eye with the cracked earth. I think this one also works nicely because of the combination of the black and white and the color. And the color is just in the eye and not in the ground around it. Great example here of eliminating something. So the feet stay, but the legs go away. This is a simple one to set up. Again, you have to take the picture with the pants down around your feet. Obviously, your legs come up through. And then you have to carefully step out of the pants so you can take a picture of the inside of the pants. And you're essentially masking the inside of the pants. You're substituting the inside of the pants when they're empty for when they're full. This is much harder to do, but very cool nonetheless. I include this one because the lighting is rather dramatic, but it's also carefully considered about where the light sources are and how they're shifting scales, but yet you still see the shadows being cast. The girl, for example, the shadow on the cup, those kinds of things help make this scene feel real. I just kind of like this one. While the other one was really creepy, this one's kind of cute in a bizarre way. I don't know. Same idea here as the younger person looking at his older self in the mirror. Here's the kitten looking at the lion in the reflection. So same idea. This, obviously, you have to get the kitten to sit still to take the picture. And then somehow you need a picture of a lion, too, which might be a little more challenging. But the one thing I did change from previous semesters on the assignment, and you guys can look at it, you need to take the pictures yourself. So you have to figure out how to take your own picture of the lion if you want to do the lion. Okay? When I first started giving out this assignment, most people took pictures themselves and managed to make them come together. And it's like over time it's crept up into I'll just do a Google image search and combine images together. And you think a lot less about how the lighting impacts the scene when you're just taking images from online. So I want you guys to take your own pictures in this, and you'll see that you can come up with some rather creative solutions for how this kind of thing works. These ones are really cool, but really hard unless you have high-speed film equipment. But they're fun to look at. And obviously, you guys can do a Google search of your own for photoshopped images to see these kinds of examples. I just like it. I don't know. It's silly, but it's cool nonetheless, right? This one's really well done. You guys probably wouldn't be able to do something like this. It's a challenging one to get the images to put this kind of thing together. But part of what makes it so successful are the way that they've blended the scales of the fish into the mountain and how that transition occurs. The broken arms versus the pottery. This one's very doable as well. You've got the power lines running into the guitar. Similar lighting conditions. So when you take the picture of the guitar, you have to make sure that it's slightly backlit. And if you look at the edges of the guitar, it is slightly backlit. That's why this is working. Love this one. This is great, too. Right, so this is the kind of thing. We're just bending reality. You look at this image, and technically, it's a perfectly acceptable image. And your brain goes, well, wait a minute. Wait, what happened to the body in the middle? It's those kinds of things that I'm asking you to do. I lightened this image up a lot. It was a lot darker to begin with. But these kinds of perspective shifts can be entertaining too. You need a little bit wider angle lens to make it happen, but the stitching can essentially make those two pieces come together. That might involve a little makeup to set that one up. Now this was another good scene with the sheet that transitions into the snow. I like this one as well. I think this one's very, very well done. Obviously carefully considered. you have one scene where it's stormy, you have another scene where it's not stormy, and you have a third scene where you're hanging these panels to get that part of the image, and then you're letting parts of the image appear on the panels versus not on the panels. But it's really well done. Harder to do without a little bit of extra finesse, let's say, but really, really pretty neat image. Rather easy to do, actually, on this one, transitioning the ocean to the deck. I think part of the reason that that one's so successful is that it's black and white with just the ocean being the color part. This one is actually easy to do as well, in that you need to be in the field with the tarp being pulled to take that part of it, and then you also need the same shot with the same angle down on the person of a road, and then you're substituting one into the other. But it's a really kind of creative way of pulling the road with you. I don't know, that one's kind of goofy. Perspective shift. Same road, but you're changing the perspective. But it's also set up really well. So the person who's looking over the edge obviously isn't really looking over the edge, but you've set up the look in that composition such that you're seeing the person and you're seeing the person look over the edge. What happened? This one's just fun, right? Okay, so let's look at some student examples. So those are all ones that I found online. Let's call them professional people that have made them. But let's look at some of the student examples, some of which you've seen already because I showed a few of these on the first day. But like I was saying, some of it is just seeing things in other things. So you're looking at the rock formation, you see the dog's mouth, you put the dog's mouth in. Arash did this one. He doesn't have all these tattoos. This was about transforming himself and making a statement via that. This one's a little creepy, but well done. I think the lighting might be a little overly dramatic. I like this one a lot in terms of how the transition works. Very carefully controlled about which parts are coming through and which parts are not coming through. So again, it's two different images. One is of the cat, one is of the girl, and they're masking the two together. So this one, not a spectacular image, not the best composition by any means. But I show this one because it's important, because it works almost better than a lot of the other images. You almost can't tell the difference between the dog and the pig, and the fact that the dog's head is on the pig. And that's because both were shot using the same camera, in the same perspective, using the same flash. So because the lighting conditions are so much the same, these blend together such that you're like, wait a minute, is that a dog or is it a pig? And it's all about the light and making sure that those light conditions match. Sometimes the end results end up being a little bit more artistic. There's nothing wrong with that. This pushed the envelope a little bit more in the arts direction, but it's still a nice combination of different images. The flower skirt. Again, lighting conditions matter, making sure that the shadow falls on the flower the way that it would fall on the skirt. Tells you sometimes these drawing ones, so you've got the drawn hand drawing the tattoo on the back. I think this one's really well done as well because color is carefully considered. What parts of this image are in color versus what parts are in black and white. And I think that's an important distinction for that image. You guys saw this one on the handout. This has been one of my favorites for a long time. Again, two images, right? You're standing against the wall, you take the first picture, then you take your shirt off, hang it against the wall, you take the second picture, you mask the inside of the shirt and the hanger from one image onto the image with you standing in front of the wall. So it's just a combination of the two, but again, carefully controlled light setup, tripod, same angle, same shot. Makes it easy to combine together. Bekem's from a number of years ago was well done here in the engineering technology buildings. She was sitting on one of the stools from the drafting lab. And so the original image obviously had the stool sitting here, which is fine. She was able to mask out the stool to make that part go away, but also pay attention to the shadow, right? The shadow originally had the stool legs and stuff too. So she masked away that part of it as well. So it's a combination of, essentially, you set this image up on a tripod, you put yourself in there, sitting on the stool, you then take that image, then you go away, and you take the same image of the background from the same perspective, same lighting conditions, and then you're carefully choosing which parts of the image come forward and which parts go away. John did this one. This was another good example of the, I wake up in the morning, wait, where's the rest of my body? You know, it's that kind of a story. This one has a nice composition to it with the strong diagonals, which helps. Rather simple masking. 2 images come together. I thought this one was rather creative. It was a kind of a different setup for it, but again, very, very well done because the lighting conditions are consistent in the scene. The figure in the smoke, I have no idea how many shots it took him to get that. This one you have to kind of squint at. It's much harder to see, but it's there. The face is there, and it's a very carefully controlled setup, and it works really nice. The half face, you've seen these online probably before. The profile blending into the front view. The sketch becoming reality. Sometimes photographs of photographs can be successful too, and how those interact with what's in the scene. So this is a rather simple one, set up with photographs within photographs, but the addition of the scissors and the facial expressions are part of what tells the story of this sort of a scene. I think this person was channeling The Walking Dead a bit. So there's lots more examples online, but I wanted to at least go through a whole set of examples for you guys to get thinking about what you were going to create. Remember, lighting conditions are the most important thing for blending 2 images together. It's always about the light. And when we, I think it's on Wednesday, we're going to insert the people that we cut out today into a scene. And I'm going to talk the whole time about matching up lighting conditions. And how do you pick the people, and how do you put them into the scene, and how do you make the shadow happen? So that's the big transition that we're going to work on over the course of this week. OK, so I'm going to switch over onto the school computer, and we're going to cut out some objects. For your exercise 107, we're going to start with isolating the people. So while I'm transitioning over, if you guys could search for or pull up pictures of people, I'm looking for you guys to isolate pictures that contain the whole person. So a picture that is, is cropped here of just somebody's head isn't going to help you long term. You're not going to put that into some scene. You want the whole person, head to toe, make sure the feet are showing, and that's what we're going to try to cut out. The higher the resolution, the better. So if you do a Google image search or a Creative Commons image search, make sure you pick the larger size images, because if it's too small of an image, you'll get pixelated borders and it's really not worth your time. Okay? So start looking for those. I'll switch over and then I'll show you the image that I'm going to start to work with. Okay?